we are about to Biden it up. We got to have like...
We need a special lower third on the screen.
We need a graphic for that.
Yes. So, Daniel, what's going on with good old... by the way, I'm no longer going to use that nickname, Sleepy Creepy Uncle Joe. I'm done with it because we're better than that.
Moving on.
We're going to move.
Plus,
we're going to
Trump took it and rebranded it, so we got to use something else. I mean, maybe he'll take the next one you're going to pick up. What's your idea?
I don't know.
What's
your new nickname?
I don't know. We'll come up with something. But right now, Biden up. That's mine.
Okay.
So what's going on with Biden? What happened?
Okay, so what we got is after the debate that just happened, if you didn't see our live stream on it or the debate itself, there'll be a little less context. But if you were there for it, this is going to make a whole lot of sense. A fundraiser for Joe Biden's 2020 campaign said he no longer is supporting the former vice president's White House bid and predicted that others will follow suit. The news of his break came one day after Biden delivered an uneven debate performance that provoked new doubts about his candidacy, which, if you're watching us, they're not new, and turned a spotlight back to his controversial statements and past policy positions on civil rights and abortion. I had actually let the campaign know I'd pull back my support for Biden for now. Inlery, whatever his name is, told the cable news network, because of course, if you're a bundler, you're going to get on TV. I don't think he did well last night, and he said I would imagine that I'm not alone.
Oh no, buddy, he did terrible.
We're expecting a bunch of people to fall out. So, Paul, wasn't the bet that we made that he would drop out after Iowa? That you thought he was going to drop out after Iowa?
I thought he was going
to
after Super Tuesday.
You
have him dropping out before.
Hampshire.
Okay, so hold on. I just want to.
You're already.
I know I'm not in it, but Biden, maybe you should have listened to me and not into the race at all. Just rode on the coattails that you were the vice president at one point, and that's it. Eat your slice of pizza. You would have been happy, but now, like the idiot that you are, you didn't listen to me. Now this is happening.
All right, so let's get back to it. Kamala Harris unloaded an impassioned criticism of Biden's decades-old resistance. She probably saw our videos to federally enforced busing and desegregate public schools. The California senator also rebuked his widely criticized comments from earlier this month about working with segregationist lawmakers during his time in the Senate, calling out his compromises with Senate Republicans, slamming his vote to approve the Iraq War, casting doubt on his ability to help bridge America's racial divides, helping to blunt the deluge of negative headlines. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, an African-American woman, announced her endorsement of Biden's campaign on Friday, which I think was a very poor decision, to say the least. And the candidate himself launched into damage control mode during his remarks on Reverend Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push Coalition convention. So, guys, what do you think? Is Biden it up, or is he Bidening it down?
I think where he's biding his time.
Ooh, that's
no,
good.
but I want to give a shout out to Unknown Space Pioneer. You need a cardboard cutout of Biden behind you sniffing your hair. No, I don't want that.
That's what Kira's for on Wednesday. We already if you see the Wednesday show, that's where all the cool stuff is. We're very serious here, but we have fun on the Wednesday show. We have fun here too, though. I shouldn't say
we have fun.
I'm having fun right now.
Hey, we have fun.
My face, I'm having tons of fun.
No, we do, but let's look at the bigger picture about Biden. It's like what you said on the very first. I think it was you did the very first live stream acknowledging him entering into the race, and you said at the end of that video, "I'm excited to see Biden into the race." Now, here's what we all mean by that, because I'm excited about it. So and Paul and everyone else, because now all of you, the entire world, gets to see what kind of a clown Biden is, what kind of an idiot he is, what kind of plagiarist he is, what kind of sexist he is, what kind of misogynist he is, and what kind of polite racist he is. Because let's face it, in the two times that Biden has run for presidency, 1988 and even the early 2008, social media was not where it's at where it is right now. But now everyone, with the power of the internet, with the power of basically the Library of Alexandria right here at our fingertips, we could look up all the information about all the presidential candidates and look into their past voting records. And when you look into Biden's voting records, well, he had a lot of polite working relationships with known segregationists. He had a lot of polite working relationships with people that were against busing. Yeah. This is who Biden is. And this is who Obama picked as his vice president. Look, Obama has, to be fair, he was very good as a president. Eloquent. He could speak well. But I don't know what the hell he was thinking picking somebody like Joe Biden. Joe Biden was against busing and desegregation.
He needed a nice white guy to level it out. That was always my take on
Here's
it.
what's interesting. Like, we did predict that as soon as he's on the debate stage and has to defend himself, everyone's going to pile on Biden.
Yep.
And it was obvious that was going to happen. So the question is, who benefited most from it? And I think the article accurately identifies Kamala Harris as the one who benefited most, because she sort of got to play the identity card. But there's an interesting point that I noticed on Twitter the next day. People noted in her rebuttal, when she was sort of dressing him down, she mentioned that she was in like the second ever class to be desegregated in Berkeley. And people went, that seems weird. You were born in, what, 1964? Looks like we can find your yearbook. Okay, so you were in that school system for 2 years. That school system was desegregated almost 20 years before you were born. So that's just a lie.
So that's the other thing that again, like, this is why I'm always at the point where, way before the election started, this is why I thought Bernie had the long-term strength, is that Biden had, starting out, just like, again, if you look at the first video we did on Biden a few months ago, it is exactly what we said. He's going to fall apart. Now, Kamala has maybe not as many issues as Joe Biden, but she has several flaws. And so what I see happening to Joe Biden is going to inevitably happen to Kamala if she is the new establishment frontrunner.
Okay. So there's two people I want to give a shout out. First, Brandon Adams. This is somebody who we've interviewed, a strong progressive. He's an alderman in Jacksonville, Illinois. That's outside of Chicago, but he's a strong progressive. And he wrote this: how did mainstream media know to give Harris 3 minutes without interruption when they were constantly cutting off candidates off from time constraints? Conclusion?
Collusion is the question.
Collusion. Yes.
I wanted to go back a little bit. This was an interesting question from Clive. Would you guys prefer it if Tulsi and Bernie ran as independents instead of Democrats?
That too.
Yeah, you seem to dislike all the other candidates in the liberal wing of the party. This is an interesting question.
Yes and no. Hold on. We all have different perspectives on this.
You asked literally one of the questions where we all have a different answer.
All right. Paul, you want to go first?
I think it's super tricky, right? So it's a question of political strategy. Is it better to try to run from outside the Democratic Party, or is it better to try and take it over from the inside? I say I think the Democratic Party, it might be unsavable, and it might be the strategy to do an independent run or a new party.
Right.
But what that requires is a complete change to our voting system, voter integrity, and a parliamentary style or ranked choice voting style. I personally like the Coombs tabulation method if we want to get into voting theory.
Yeah.
But we need a completely different voting system to make that viable. So from a political strategic perspective, we're kind of stuck trying to do this. Now, I think if Bernie gets obviously rigged out of the nomination, which I expect, last time he threw his support behind Clinton. I think this time it's time for the gloves to come off, and I think he should make an independent run.
Okay, so
personally.
Okay, so real quick, Clive, don't delete your question, because this is a question that needs to be asked. Now, throughout the show, since we've been on radio and on television, is that that I'm a strong supporter of third-party candidates. I'm a supporter of the fact that we should have a parliamentary system. But with that being said, with the Green Party and Libertarian Party, running as a third-party candidate, you're dealing with laws working against third parties at the county level, city level, state level, and federal level. And the best bet for Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard right now is to run as Democrats. But we got to remember that the DNC committed election fraud during the 2016 primary, and I do expect something like that to happen again. But this time, people are more aware and calling it out. I don't know if the DNC could play the same game, but I'm going to take Daniel's words right now because I know he's going to say the same thing. But what's the best thing to do? Build a McDonald's or take over McDonald's from the inside? And that's what you want to do. And that's what groups like Our Revolution, Brand New Congress, Justice Democrats, and to some extent even the Democratic Socialists of America are doing. And that's having progressives take out the neoliberal establishment Democrats. So Senator Bernie Sanders and Representative Tulsi Gabbard's best bet is to run as Democrats. But we got to remember that the DNC was willingly committing election fraud during the 2016 primary. They were doing that. The evidence is there. We have to address that the two-party neoliberal system, especially the Democratic neoliberals, would rather lose to Trump than have somebody like Bernie Sanders win. Because let's look at the presidency of FDR. It affected the top 1%, and they still have PTSD from that. And they would do anything to stop somebody like an FDR from coming into office. They would. Daniel.
So this is basically, it seems over time we're kind of actually converging back to a normal way of looking at this, or not a normal, a similar way of looking at this. So from my point of view, we have a very simple setup. It is, just like Kit said, it's always the example I use with McDonald's. It's easier to take over a McDonald's internally than it is to build a competitor that outshines McDonald's. So in a nutshell, Bernie Sanders, Tulsi, any of these guys, they have to go through the Democratic primary, win power, and then give up power so that independents can run in the future. Okay. I don't see a way for independents to take over, or a new party. Like, I don't think that a Lincoln, a new Republican Party, or something of that nature can happen in the current way. Because if you have that, then you just have the Democrats and Republicans will just ally with each other, and then you're screwed even more. Yeah. And then everyone will attack you for destroying the primary or whatever it may be, because people are silly like that. But in a nutshell, where I do differ is, I think that to a degree, if Sanders is strong enough, they really can't do jack shit about stopping him. It's again, this is the paper tiger argument that at some level, the Democratic Party is just a paper wall with a paper tiger guarding it. And the second that wall is breached, they really have no other form of defense. The second that Americans go, I don't believe in the status quo, which is an environment that we're living in, and especially if we have a recession sometime in the next year, it'll almost be, I think right now it's likely, the most likely that Sanders is going to win. But if we have a recession, it's near guaranteed that Sanders is going to win.
And just a final note, too. Again, shout out to Brandon Adams. Check out our interview that we did with him after the show. He's a strong progressive, and this is the kind of person we're talking about, because he said, thank you for guys for doing responsible journalism. So we got to give a shout out to somebody like that. But, at the end of the day, it's we got to call out the neoliberal system and the election fraud. And if we don't, 2016 will repeat itself. So I guess you heard our different perspectives. But let's go forward.
I want to say one last note on that very quickly. Again, this is the other thing I say. The only way to win is by winning.
Yep.